Today we're going to be making the world's best guacamole. So I actually have quite a few avocados and I'm going to be going to an event later today. So I wanted to take some chips and homemade guacamole. So let me show you how I make my recipe. I think it's really good and I've got a little way that I do it that kind of extends the avocados, which I hope you'll really find this helpful. So one of the things I do when I have tons of ripe avocados like this is that I freeze them for the whole year because I just have a ton of avocados. This is actually my last bag from last year. So I am going to be adding this to my guacamole. And if you're interested to see how I freeze my avocados or my guacamole to last me through the year, check out the video linked above. It's really easy and it's something that I've done for a long time. And look there's nothing brown in it. It's beautiful avocados. So let's get started making our guacamole. So I start off by adding the guacamole that I have. So there's gonna be a lot of people at this party today. So I'm gonna make a whole lot of guacamole. Now I know that they have some chips that they have because they always do nachos at these parties. And so I'm gonna add what I have, and then I've got a whole bunch of ripe avocados that I'm gonna be putting in, and I'll show you how I do this. A lot of these are really tiny. It's just the way these Hass avocados are off this particular tree. And they're delicious. They're really good. They just, some of them are just real small. Some of them are really big. It just really depends on the avocado. So I don't worry about it. They're all good. I get all of the avocado out of each and every one of these. And I don't know about you, but I love guacamole. It's just, honestly, it's one of my favorite ways to eat chips and dips. So I'm probably not gonna be eating a lot of chips today, but I probably will have a few, even though they're not exactly on my plan. I don't worry about stuff like that when I go to these parties. I usually have a little something before I go, and then I don't eat as much when I'm at the party, but I know they're gonna have cake and stuff like that. So I'm gonna allow myself a piece of cake today. I already weighed for the week, so I'm not gonna let that affect me tomorrow. I wanna have fun tonight. The next thing that I do is I take a potato masher. Now my avocados are pretty well broken up. I just wanna get the larger pieces and just kind of mash them down a little bit. This is really all I'm gonna do with this. I don't want it mush, but I do want it to be nice, smaller pieces when people bite into it. So that's about it. That's all I do as far as the mashing. All right. Now I'm gonna take the juice of one lime and I'm gonna pour that in. That smells good. And I also take the juice of a lemon. Now I know a lot of people just use limes, but I really like the lemon and the lime mix. I just think it's a really good, I think it's a good mix. I love lemons. You want to make sure you have enough lime and ascorbic acid in here because this is what's going to keep your guacamole from turning brown. And look at that. I had added my frozen avocados and not one lick of brown anywhere in this whole thing. Just looks beautiful. All right, so the next thing we're gonna add is a tomato. I like using the Roma tomatoes because they just have a lot less content of water in them. I mean, some of them just have hardly any at all. That's why they're used so much in Italian cooking to make sauces and things like that. So all I'm gonna do is just cut these up really fine. I'm gonna probably cut them a couple of times just so I get them nice and skinny. And then I wanna make sure these are diced up really small. Now, if you're worried about your tomatoes still being too moist, just take a paper towel and kind of pat it a little. You'll take off any moisture that you have extra in the tomato. And 1 tomato should really do it. You don't want it overpowered with tomato. Now, honestly, if I had ripe tomatoes from my garden, that wouldn't be the case. I would actually put in more tomatoes, but it's not tomato season yet. I've actually started my little tomato sprouts, but we're nowhere near that time of the year yet. We're a couple months away. All right, the next thing I like to add is a nice red onion. So normally I would put this through my Vidalia onion chopper, but I am just going to chop this. I'm only going to use half of it because I want to get these super fine. All right, so we are going to just chop away at this. Probably only going to do like half of this at a time because I want to make sure it's nice and small pieces. I mean, some people love big bites of onions, some people don't. So, you know, when you're making for a big crowd, you just assume that most people don't want to have big bites of anything and you'll be safe. Now, I'm actually going to take a larger knife and chop this up in a minute, but I want to get it as small as I can with a knife first. Now, I'm just going to take a large knife and just chop, chop, chop so that I can get these as small as possible. Just gonna add this half of an onion to my guacamole. Now I want to take a little bit of garlic, and I'm gonna take a couple of cloves, take the garlic and just run it through the press. All right, we're gonna take a teaspoon of mineral salt, sprinkle that right over the top. We're gonna do some freshly cracked pepper, about a half a teaspoon. Then we're gonna add our cilantro. Now, to keep my cilantro fresh, I put it in a cup of water. This actually is 2 weeks old, believe it or not. I put it in about an inch of water and I just keep cutting off what I need. It's all been cleaned. This is just the way I've done it. I know people that kind of keep it in their refrigerator in a bag and it only lasts a couple days. I really like to cut it off with a pair of scissors. And then I give it a good chop, but I also like to kind of roll it around in my hands and squeeze it a little bit to get some of the oils and the smells out of it. Just like we did our onions. Give it a chop. Keep chopping it like you would any other herb. If you see some leaves that are more yellow, you know, don't worry about it. You can take everything you want right out, but look how good this looks. Look how easy that was. We're just gonna squash it down a little. I just want to release some of those oils from that. Oh boy, that smells amazing. All right, so now all we're gonna do is put this right into our wonderful guacamole. Now I also put in about a half a teaspoon of ground cumin. I just like that smoky flavor that it gives to the guacamole. Now I don't know there's gonna be a lot of people there I don't know today, so I don't know their heat tolerance. So today I'm gonna leave the guacamole out, you know, with no extra chilies. I am gonna sample it, make sure it has enough salt and seasonings. Oh, it smells amazing. Wow. All right. Doesn't that look good? So we're gonna give it a little sample test. Oh, that's so good. Oh my gosh. I don't dare get the chips out. All right. All right, now let me show you how I take it to the party. I don't ever like taking containers that I have to get back from the hostess. I like always taking things that are throwaway. So this is my secret. So I save these little throwaway containers whenever I go out for lunch, which isn't too often, but I get these little parchment papers that I get them at the Dollar Tree pre-cut. I just put one in the bottom, and then all I'm gonna do is scoop this into the container. I wanna have a nice presentation of guacamole. Look how beautiful that looks. Get every drop out of there. All right, so this is what I do. I just fill up my container just like this. Try to make it as neat as possible. And then I want you to remember, air is your enemy. So this is how we're gonna keep this nice and green. We're gonna take a piece of plastic wrap and we're gonna put it all the way down around our guacamole, just like this. Now don't you worry, when you take this off, it's gonna be just fine. We don't want any air in here. This is how I keep my guacamole nice and green, by freezing it. I make sure there's no air in the container. So just like that, I'm gonna seal it with this and with a nice seal. There you go. Now you can just kind of tuck it down. I'm gonna put this in the refrigerator until it's time to go, and I'll be bringing a bag of chips. So this is gonna be my contribution today to the party, some chips and homemade guacamole. I've yet to meet a person yet who doesn't like guacamole. Even if they're not an avocado fan, almost everybody loves guacamole. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're not a subscriber, please give me a thumbs up or a like. Consider subscribing to my channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.